When you have like airplanes that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, maintaining them and taking care of them is such a big field. Between like the design aspect of it, between the continuous improvements and reliability issues that happen with airplanes as they age, that is something that I like dove deeply in. And then I was like, okay, that's cool, but let me move on to the people aspect of the airline industry specifically. Yeah. And as of 2 years ago, I made the shift into supporting airlines starting new routes and setting up airport operations in different areas of the world. And that gave me exposure to every piece of aviation. And what people don't realize is that aviation is such a complex field. Like one flight to get from A to Z probably touches several hundred employees at minimum, if not thousands. Okay, people don't know what happens in the background. They think it's just an airplane with a couple pilots and a flight attendant.
That's what I think.
Okay, you get on and you somehow magically end up somewhere else. But you know, one of the things I do now is I set up operations at airports throughout the world, and we have to get governmental approvals. We have to get contracts with vendors and fueling people, catering kitchens. We have to send supplies and logistics. We have to set up technology throughout the airport. We have to integrate our systems with airports around the world. We have to integrate our systems with other airlines that we could have connecting passengers from or on, right? So like the airline industry is such a complex industry, and the commercial piece of that is that because it's very complex and it's capital intensive, it's actually very difficult to run. And the margins in it are very slim. That's why you'll hear like people always complain about like airline tickets that they're expensive. In reality, the price that you're seeing has very slim profit margins. In most cases, it's no more than like 6 or 7%, which is below like corporate averages. The average could be anywhere from 10 to 12, and you're talking about an entire industry that struggles to reach 6 or 7. And that's strictly because it's very capital intensive. It requires hundreds of people to get one flight in and out. To scale that, you're talking about thousands of employees, and those employees are high labored employees. They're like very expensive to maintain, retain, and train. Think about any flight. You have a team of pilots. These pilots have spent longer than med school times to get to where they're at, to be able to be trusted with an airplane with 300,000 people, or 300 people, sorry. And then you've got all the support staff. The support staff could be DT people, chefs that cook your meal before that goes on to flight, security teams that do security checks on the airplanes. You got cabin cleaners that get on board and clean the airplane before you get on. You got people on the ramp that put your bags in the cargo holds. You have fueling teams. So it doesn't end. It takes so many people. So by the time you pay everybody and then pay your biggest bill, which is fuel, there's no money left in your ticket for the airline. It's a very slim business. And that's why I actually like it, because the opportunity to make change is huge. If anyone can figure out a way to squeeze 0.5% out of it, that is a huge accomplishment. So I guess there's a lot left in the aviation world to discover. And that's what drives me to it, is that, okay, how can we make this better and actually more efficient for everybody?
The airplane was invented around 100 years ago, and it was
it was 1903.
Yeah, small two-person plane with a propeller, and it went in the air. But now, as you said, 300 plus people. I mean, I'm sure there's 767, 777, these large planes. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Look, the evolution of a flight over the last, 120 years, let's say, is actually pretty astonishing. Like I was reading earlier today that a flight from the Middle East in the 30s to Singapore would take 8 days because you had to do 22 fuel stops.
God, okay. I would lose my mind.
Now that's a 12-hour flight. And that's not even considered remotely long in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
You have flights that are approaching 20 hours now. And that's the crazy part to me, is that you have 200 tons of metal flying for 20 hours with 250 people on board or more, versus a car can barely go 500 miles without a fuel stop. But we can send 200 tons in the air for 20 hours without any issues. And that like technological advancement in the last century is just mind blowing.
Right. There's always footage of weird things happening on planes, people getting dragged out, people getting in fights, people saying that person right there is not real. Like, it's interesting how this culture of uh, reasons flights are getting delayed, or reasons that that you may think that, oh, this is what's happening on the plane. Now that everybody has cameras, you can kind of see, oh, this is what's really going down. Obviously, not always the case. It's a very small percentage, but whenever I see videos on planes, I'm like, dang, when is it gonna be the time when I'm on a plane and something crazy's happening?
You know how they always say that retail workers see like the worst of people?
Right.
I think airline customer service people, between like flight attendants or like in the airport, are up there with the retail workers as far as seeing the worst of people. Major airlines in the US fly anywhere from 140 to 160 million people a year, each airline.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you're dealing with that level of volume, you get to see all kinds of things. And you're dealing with people that are happy, you're dealing with people that are sad, you're dealing with people that are under the influence, you're dealing with all kinds of situations, and you never know what it could throw at you. And it's actually funny in the airline industry that we always like kind of keep up with the best and funniest story. And one of the things that comes straight to mind, there was a flight here in the US from Hawaii back to continental USA, and someone ran into the galley and stole a champagne bottle. And before they could get back to their seat, they had chugged most of it.
Oh, man.
So you could imagine what happens to someone who drinks, I assume, that much alcohol in that small period of time. Really
Right.
messes you up. The person started dancing in the middle of the aisle later on in the flight, to where they had to restrain them. So like, even things that don't necessarily like cause harm and just like funny or stupid happen all the time. And then you add on that like medical situations, or even the unfortunate reality of people passing out or dying on an airplane, that happens. So all of these things, like for a flight to arrive on time, everything needs to go right. And by everything, I'm talking about thousands of possibilities.
There's so much that can go wrong.
There's so much that can go wrong that it could throw off one flight. And one flight throws off another flight, because that airplane is going to be used somewhere else as soon as it lands. So the trickle down effect of one delay or one cancellation is huge. And those are the things that I like capture my attention. It's like, how do you minimize the odds that are stacked against you in the airline world?
Right, because you'll see certain things that within the airline world, plane crashes, planes going missing. I don't even know how that happens, but
that remains a mystery. And to be honest, I don't think it will ever happen again, because it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Airplanes don't just go missing. The amount of radar systems and communication that we have from the ground to the airplane, from the airplane to other airplanes, some mysterious things have to happen for an airplane to disappear.